Genesis Behind the Story, Episode 9. The Rivalry Between Leah and Rachel, based on Genesis 29:31-35 and Genesis 31:24. Welcome back to Stories by Anna. What if I told you that two sisters loved the same man, lived in the same home, shared the same husband, and spent years competing for his affection? This wasn't a reality show. This was the family that would eventually become the nation of Israel. By the end of the last episode, Jacob had married both Leah and Rachel. But there was a problem, a painful problem. The Bible tells us that Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. Imagine how Leah must have felt. She hadn't asked to be part of her father's deception, yet every day she lived with the reality that her husband loved her sister more. But God saw Leah's pain. Genesis tells us that when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, He enabled her to have children. Meanwhile, Rachel remained unable to conceive. Soon Leah gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben. Leah hoped Jacob would finally notice her, but things didn't change. Then another son was born. She named him Simeon. Then came Levi, and later Judah. With each child, Leah hoped her relationship with Jacob would improve, but Rachel watched all of this unfold with growing frustration. The Bible says Rachel became jealous of her sister. Her pain became so intense that she cried out to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." Jacob became angry. He reminded Rachel that only God could open her womb, but Rachel wasn't willing to wait. She decided to take matters into her own hands. Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob so that Bilhah could bear children on her behalf. Soon Bilhah gave birth to a son named Dan. Later another son was born, Naphtali. Rachel felt she was finally gaining ground. But Leah wasn't finished. When Leah stopped having children for a time, she gave her servant Zilpah to Jacob. Zilpah gave birth to Gad, then Asher. The competition continued, the family continued growing, and the tension continued building. Yet through all the rivalry, jealousy, and hurt feelings, God was accomplishing something bigger than any of them could see. These sons would become the fathers of the tribes of Israel. God's plan was moving forward despite the family drama. Then, after many years of waiting, something remarkable happened. God remembered Rachel. The Lord opened her womb, and Rachel finally gave birth to a son. His name was Joseph. One day, Joseph would become one of the most important figures in the entire Bible. But for now, he was the answer to Rachel's long-awaited prayer. What began as a rivalry between sisters had become the foundation of a nation. Yet the drama is far from over. Because Jacob has now spent many years working for Laban, and he is about to discover that family conflicts don't end easily. We'll discover what happens in Episode 10. Jacob's wealth begins to grow. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Stories by Anna. And here's a question for you. Have you ever had to trust God's timing when something you wanted seemed delayed? Let me know in the comments below. God bless, and I'll see you in the next story.